For the longest time, Bretonnia was essentially considered the best faction in the game, and more or less, not unbeatable, but definitely the best. Tzeentch has always been S tier, though. I mean, I say always. Maybe there's been certain points very early in Warhammer 3 where they were not, but pretty much always, especially in land battles with that barrier mechanic, have been very good. And, yeah, against Bretonnia, a few things changed, very minor things, seemingly, that actually affected this matchup in a pretty big way. The main thing is the scatter shot change, right? So any multi-missile attack now targets across full unit, right? Targets multiple models rather than just all concentrating in one place on the unit. So that does affect Blue Fire, long been the best magic missile in the game. Now is even better, especially against infantry units. Specifically in this matchup, it matters against Bretonnian archers, who are quite good and cost-effective, and who threaten, like Kairos himself, and can help contest against, you know, different things here. This build, excuse me, is from SEPA. This is from the tournament I hosted this last weekend. If you want to join the next tournament, be sure to check out the link down in the description below. But yes, it's basically halberds plus spawn to protect. We've got the Soul Grinder, which also benefited from the scatter shot change, right? Making it better again versus something like archers. You can see there the first blue fire, I missed the actual shot of it, but the health effect on that peasant bowman is pretty significant. And we've got some marauder spears, a couple of warrior halberds, and a couple of chosen halberds. So very tall build. It seems like potentially vulnerable to certain things, but Bretonnia doesn't really have a lot of those things, right? Like anti-infantry, for example, right? You've only got foot squires available, which didn't get brought here by Nurgle's PA. He's got King Lewin and a whole mess of chaff infantry with some peasant bowmen, 5 of them, Damsel of Life, 3 Grail Knights allowed in this format, and that's it. So a lot of heavy knights. I say a lot. Significant spend on 3 units. Question is, are they going to be enough to take down the 2 chosen, especially with the spawn protecting? Their mass is absolutely critical. Keep those Chaos Infantry from just getting steamrolled. Not to mention, of course, they do have Armor Sunder, excuse me, which is not going to matter a ton here for the Halberds, as they have primary armor piercing, but it does matter a bit, right? All attacks have some amount of non-AP damage, unless you're ethereal. But anyway, yeah, so you can see how SEPA's just going to be concentrating on, look at that, all across, just hits the full wide unit there. Just concentrating on bursting down those peasant bowmen. The peasant bowmen, honestly, in terms of targets, they should concentrate here. I would probably go... Oof, nice penumbral pendulum as well from Kairos. Again, just focusing on taking out all those archers as early as possible. I would probably focus on the spawn, which looks like he might be trying to, but even on this relatively early phase, the archers have taken such damage that it's, you know, it's tough. Things you could do, you could try and threaten Kairos with Lewin up in the air. Kairos can always go land in the middle of this blob, which is something he probably should do. See some kind of early attacks here by the Grail Knights. Gaze of Fate's going to let them linger in combat a little bit longer than they probably would want to. You see this other one's able to pull away pretty quickly, taking some damage, not really doing any real HP damage in return. It's mostly all just barrier damage here. This Chaos Warrior of Halberd did take some damage, but yeah, you can see also the archers are trying to hit those spawn a little bit. Again, in terms of kind of value targets here, they're probably the best to shoot at. It's going to be tough to make consistent contact on Kairos when he's up in the air, but yeah, the Shrieking Sky Ray is going to go back here. Yeah, that blue fire mostly actually hit the trees, which is the benefit to these archers, right? They can maybe try and use that tree line for cover somewhat, but yeah, those men-at-arms now moving into combat. Problem with them, there's no Grail Relic to support their leadership, so the Terror will kick in pretty quickly for the Soul Grinder and for Kairos. You can see that the Grail Knights also dropping a little rear charge here, quick in and out, not wanting to linger too long against the blob of anti-large and, you know, tentacle monster. But yeah, you can see how SEPA here just ordering attacks on the Grail Knights with all of his units, which is, you would think, going to lead to some of them getting kind of pulled out of position here, but there's not a lot of cavalry volume-wise. It's a high quality, right, from Nurgle's PA here, but yeah, nice rear charge there. Doesn't do as much damage on the spawn as you might think, so it's tough to say. Maybe the answer here is volume of cavalry rather than taking all these grails. You take like a mix of Knights of the Realm and Questing Knights, although it still just feels like the quality there is not going to be able to get through Chosen. Probably going to need something like AoE damage from various things, but yeah, oof. The peasant bowmen just having the worst day of their lives as they get absolutely massacred here. You can see Lewin kind of futilely trying to protect them. I mean, they are going to shut down the Sky Rays and be able to kill them pretty quickly, but again, the Terror is a big problem here, so Grail Relic would probably help here. I don't know. I'm kind of just spitballing, to be honest, because this build for Tzeentch seems very strong, and it seems like this might finally be the one bad matchup for Bretonnia. I mean, it always has been one of their tougher matchups, maybe even you could say in the past, but I don't know. With something like this, I think probably the right player with the right micro could win against it, certainly, especially if Sipo, or whatever Tzeentch player makes a lot of mistakes, right? But it just seems quite good, the combination of things, kind of how it covers different bases. And Steve and I were even talking in chat about this particular replay, and he was mentioning, like, yeah, you can even cut the Shrieking Sky Rays or kind of retool things a little bit to take some more anti-archer tools, do some different things. But yeah, you can see the Grail Knights charging in here, getting some regrowth now, but just having a hard time accruing any value, even despite that Lance formation. Lewin comes in on the flank, does some good damage on the Soul Grinder there, manages to get some picks, but as always, it can just pull back towards the center of this Halberd blob. And the Bretonnian infantry are really not doing anything besides just dying here, so even something like Foot Squires, I mean, the Foot Squires definitely trade much more effectively against the Chaos Warrior Halberds, and obviously, like this Marauder Spearmen, they would have no problem against. Still going to probably lose to the Chosen. They'll at least trade better, I would say, than the Men-at-Arms with shields. I don't know. It'll be tricky in this matchup, certainly, but, yeah. Yeah, I think just maybe retooling the build a little bit. Hard to say, really. Paladins are not as popular as they used to be, and in this kind of a matchup, if they're trying to hunt Kairos, you can see how he just hard lands here. And Lewin then gets kind of stuck up in the Halberds, actually pro-blocks with the Soul Grinder right there. But Paladins on Pegasi would be having similar problems, right? They are light enough that they might even get stopped up just by the Chosen themselves, not to mention the spawn and everything else, but another brutal Penumbral Pendulum just to really send a message to those last few archers. We're getting close as Lewin makes his final stand. The Wedge of Grail Knights charging in here. Gaze of Fate being used on Lewin, so he cannot escape. And see the Grail Knights, when they're able to get good contact, they're definitely doing what they do, right? But it's just slightly not enough. I mean, Nurgle always lies on value a little bit there, but especially Lewin routing here, shutting off his own self-healing is going to be a huge problem. Let's see if he can actually get away. Nope, he does route there, so yeah, that's basically it. Yep. Nurgle's PA thrown in the towel there, and I mean, I do think, like I said, if you were to kind of theory craft a specific build to beat this, I think you probably could. I think even this as it is, like the Grail Knights, as powerful as they are, this is the one situation where I think they kind of get hard countered, to be honest. Arguable whether you should maybe cut down on that, to try and distribute that value out a little bit, maybe get a couple of, I don't know, Foot Squires. They actually do something, maybe with the Grail Relics, they don't just instantly Terror out. I don't know, though. I mean, like, what are you going to have to kill the Chosen, even still? Both of them getting over 1,100 values, 16-13 on one. The Soul Grinder doesn't actually do that much in this particular battle. I can imagine on different maps or in different situations where maybe Kairos wasn't able to do as much. It, you know, does more damage. Or, like, if you did, let's say, bring Foot Squires, right, then this thing could gun him down pretty easily. Not to mention the spawns also trade better against Foot Squires, right? But, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. Just tough halberd and, you know, sort of missile box in a way, right? It does have some capacity to respond with missiles from single entities, so it's can be quite tough. But credit to Nurgle's PA for giving it a good attempt there. It's definitely in for a rough time. I mean, again, the archers, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to take them, but at the same time, knowing sort of the scatter shot change for Tzeentch, I might just go in a completely different direction. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe go for just an all-out melee rush. Just try and close the distance as quickly as possible. And in that case, you could cut the archers and bring like a couple Grail Relics there, distribute that funds out. Wouldn't even necessarily have to cut down so much elite cavalry. Maybe just cut one Grail Knights for a little bit more volume. But yeah, it's definitely very interesting. You guys will have to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did Tzeentch finally unseat Bretonnia as the best faction in the game? I will say I think Tzeentch does have, like, Kislev might be a sort of awkward or bad matchup for them, potentially. Maybe not. I don't know. Is Tzeentch the best, or do they have some bad matchups? You guys will have to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.